The old alien station floated quietly in space, hidden behind a dying moon. Its metal walls were covered in dust and rust, long forgotten by the galaxy. But Kai, a human scavenger, saw treasure in places others feared to go. He had come here, looking for ancient anything to sell back home. His only guide was an alien girl named Vexa. She was young, quiet, and her skin glowed faintly under the dim light. She had grown up hearing stories about this station, and she knew one place no one was allowed to enter. As they walked through the empty halls, Vexa suddenly stopped. She pointed at a tall sealed door, almost hidden behind thick vines and broken panels. Her voice shook. "We don't go in there. That's the forbidden room." Kai raised an eyebrow. "Why? What's inside?" Vexa stepped back, her eyes full of fear. That place. It belonged to a warrior who wore living armor that drank blood. Kai laughed softly. "Come on, Vexa. That's just an old tale." She grabbed his arm. "Please. I'm serious." No one who entered that room ever came back, but Kai's curiosity was stronger than her fear. He scanned the door, found an old control panel, and began hacking it. Sparks flew, the metal groaned, and the door slowly opened. With a loud hiss, a wave of cold air rushed out. It smelled like burnt wires and ash. Inside, the room was dark, except for a faint blue glow. Strange carvings covered the wall, symbols from a forgotten time. In the center stood a tall black armor resting on a stone pedestal. It looked smooth, almost alive. With veins of light pulsing inside, Kai stepped closer, fascinated. This is incredible." Vexa didn't follow him in. She stood at the doorway, her eyes wide. "That armor. It's cursed, Kai. It killed its last owner." But Kai reached out his hand. Slowly, as if in a dream, the moment his fingers touched the armor, it twitched. Then the chest plate cracked open and a wave of dark metal shot toward him. Before he could scream, the armor latched onto his arm like a snake. It wrapped around his body, crawling fast like liquid metal. Kai shouted in pain, trying to rip it off, but it was already inside his skin. The armor spread across his chest, back, legs until it covered his whole body. Vexa screamed, "Kai, let go of it." He fell to the ground, gasping, the armor glowing. As it locked into place, for a second, there was silence. Then, a voice whispered in his head. A voice that didn't belong to him. A deep, cold voice that said, "Host accepted." Kai opened his eyes. They were glowing blue. He wasn't fully human anymore. Vexa ran to him, shaking him. "Can you hear me?" He blinked, confused, then looked down at his hands, now covered in dark metal. I can hear something," he said slowly. "It's speaking to me." Vexa pulled him up. "We have to leave now." But the room behind them had changed. The walls shimmered, showing flashes of war giant ships burning, planets cracking apart, memories from the armor itself. They ran through the hallway, but the station began to shake. Lights flickered, and ancient machines came alive. The armor had awakened something else, something angry. Kai looked back once, just before the doors slammed shut again. He didn't know what he had touched. He didn't know what he had become, but one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same, and deep inside him, the armor smiled. "Let's begin," it whispered again. Kai sat in silence inside the small cabin of his ship, staring at his own reflection. The armor had changed his body. His eyes were glowing blue, and strange patterns pulsed under his skin. Even though the armor looked like smooth black metal on the outside, it felt warm and alive. It moved slightly when he breathed, like it was matching his rhythm. Vexa sat in the corner, watching him closely. She hadn't spoken much since they escaped the forbidden room. Now, her voice was quiet, serious. "It's not just armor. It's something else, something living." Kai nodded slowly. "It's in my head. I can hear it." Suddenly, Voice returned, deep and calm, but sharp like a knife. You are the host, selected from ancient blood. You carry our legacy? Kai jumped back, clutching his head. Did you hear that? He asked Vexa. She shook her head. No. Only you can hear it. Then something strange happened. The armor shifted on Kai's arm, forming shapes blades. Shields, even claws for a few seconds, then melting back. It wasn't just alive. It could change at will. Kai whispered, "It's showing me." Weapons. Before Vexa could answer, a loud alarm blared through the ship. The station's old defense system had awakened and it wasn't happy. Multiple small attack drones were flying toward them fast, red lights flashing, guns charged. Kai rushed to the cockpit, but the armor took over without warning. His hands moved on their own, pressing buttons, launching the ship forward. He wasn't the pilot anymore, the armor was. Vexa grabbed his shoulder. Kai, what are you doing? He tried to respond, but his mouth didn't move. The armor whispered, "Let us handle this." The ship swerved, dodged the first wave of laser fire, then turned sharply. A hidden weapon in the ship's side opened. Weapon Kai had never seen before. It fired a blast so powerful that it cut 3 drones in half. Kai screamed inside his mind, "Stop. You're going to kill us." The armor responded, calm and cold. "Only enemies. You are safe with us." After a brutal few minutes, the last drone exploded into pieces. The ship stopped spinning, and Kai collapsed onto the floor. Gasping for air, the armor slid away from his face, revealing his human skin beneath. Wet with sweat, Vexa ran to him, holding his hand. "You weren't in control, were you?" she asked. Kai shook his head. "No." "It took over." She looked scared, but also curious. "I've heard stories of armor like this," she said. "It was created by the Korthon Empire, an ancient race that believed armor should think, speak, and feel." She paused, but they all died when the armor turned on them. Kai stood up slowly, his body still trembling. "What does it want?" he asked. Vexa looked at him with wide eyes. "Maybe it doesn't want anything. Maybe it wants you." Just then, the ship's map changed on its own. Their destination was no longer Earth. The ship had set a new course to a distant, dead world far outside known space. Vex's voice dropped to a whisper. "Why are we going there?" Kai touched the control screen, but it buzzed under his fingers locked. The armor spoke again, now louder in his head. "We must return home." The awakening begins. Kai looked at Vexa, then at his hands. He was no longer sure who he was. Part man, part machine, part something older, something dangerous. And he had a feeling this was just the beginning. The ship flew silently through deep space, heading toward an unknown planet. Kai sat strapped in the chair, his eyes staring at the stars, but his mind wasn't his own. Inside his head, the armor whispered in a strange tongue, mixed with broken English, "Obey, merge, purpose, complete." Vexa watched him nervously from across the room. He hadn't slept since the armor took over the ship. He barely ate, barely spoke. The armor had become part of him now, not just wrapped around his skin, but under it, inside it, his veins sometimes glowed blue. His heartbeat echoed with a metallic hum. Every movement he made seemed slightly unnatural, too smooth, too quiet. It wasn't just armor anymore. It was part of his flesh. "Kai," Vexa said softly, "you need to rest." He didn't respond, just looked down at his arm. The armor had stopped moving, but he could feel it breathing, pulsing, like it was waiting. "Watching. I tried everything," Vexa said, holding a small scanning device. "The armor blocks every tool I use. It's like it knows what I'm doing." Kai gave a tired laugh. "Because it does." He looked at her, eyes glowing faintly. "I dreamed last night. I saw battles, burning skies. 1 million soldiers wearing this armor. All dead, He paused, then whispered, and I was standing on the bodies. Vexa stepped back, frightened. Those aren't your dreams. Those are memories, she said. Kai nodded. Yeah, the armor is showing me things. He looked around, confused. But I don't know if they're real or if it's trying to trick me. Suddenly, the ship jolted. A sharp alarm beeped, and the main screen lit up. A red message flashed. Destination changed arrival in 6 hours planet. Korth Ax-9 VEXA single quotes S face went pale. That planet. No one goes there. It's dead. Cursed, Kai looked at the screen, then at his hands. I think that's where. The armor was born. Vexa walked to a side panel and opened a secret drawer. Inside was a plasma cutter, small but powerful. She turned it on, the blue blade glowing. I have to try again. Maybe if I cut just deep enough, I can pull it out of you. Kai didn't stop her. He rolled up his sleeve, exposing the smooth armor fused with his skin. It looked like metal, but it flexed like skin. Vexa placed the cutter near his forearm and began to slice. The moment the blade touched him, the armor reacted. It flared up, forming spikes, and threw her across the room with a pulse of energy. Vexa slammed into the wall and groaned in pain. Kai jumped up. Vexa? But then he froze. The armor had taken over again. His body moved on its own slow. Mechanical steps toward her. His voice became low and distorted. Do not harm the host. Vexa gasped. It's protecting itself. Like a living thing. The armor retracted slowly, and Kai regained control. He dropped to his knees beside her, holding her gently. I'm sorry. I couldn't stop it. Vexa coughed, then whispered, This thing. It's learning. It's adapting to us. Kai looked at his arm again, breathing heavily. I thought I could control it, he said. But now? I don't think I'm the one in charge anymore. For the first time, fear truly filled his eyes. He wasn't just wearing the armor. He was becoming something else. And the worst part, he didn't know if he could stop it. The ship landed with a hiss on a dark, cracked planet. No green. Life only black dust, broken towers, and metal bones stretching across the endless ground. This was Korth Ax-9, a graveyard of a once great empire, now forgotten, as the doors opened. A wave of dry, cold air hit Kai's face. He stepped out slowly. The armor wrapped tight across his body like second skin. Vexa followed, eyes scanning every shattered structure. She whispered, It feels like the planet itself is watching us. The sky was a permanent gray, and the clouds hung low like heavy smoke. Giant statues lay broken, half buried in dust. Machines the size of buildings sat silent, their lights long dead, but even in silence, something buzzed beneath the surface, something alive. Kai touched the ground, and the armor pulsed. It was excited, like a child returning home. We are here, it whispered in his mind, where it all began. They followed a cracked road deeper into the ruins. Strange carvings lined the walls, images of warriors in the same armor, standing above kneeling crowds. Each mural ended the same way, the armor consuming everything. Vexa whispered. This armor didn't serve them. It ruled them. Suddenly, the ground shook. A low rumble echoed beneath their feet, like something ancient was waking. Vexa pulled out her scanner, but the screen flickered with static. No signal. Something's blocking it. Ahead, they saw a crater, massive and deep. Inside, it was a glowing black pit, like a wound in the planet itself. The armor on Kai's body pulled him forward without his will. Each step felt heavier, like the gravity around the crater was stronger. Kai, stop, Vexa called. Grabbing his arm, he turned, his eyes now shining bright blue. I have to go, he said, in a voice that wasn't fully his own. It's calling me. Vexa stood still, heart pounding. You said you could control it, she whispered. Kai looked down at his hands. I thought I could. Then he looked at the crater, but it never wanted control. It wanted a vessel. As he approached the pit, a voice rose from the darkness. Not from his mind, but from the world itself. You carry the mark. Come forth, last host. Suddenly, old machines around the crater came to life. Tall, armored figures stood up, their metal bodies covered in dust and rust. They had no eyes. No mouths, just blank helmets and weapons forged from light. Vexa screamed, "Run!" But Kai didn't move. The armor formed a shield around him, and he stood calmly as the machines marched toward them. "They're not here to kill me," Kai said. "They're here to test me." The armor whispered, "Only the true host survives." The trial, one of the machines raised a long spear of plasma and threw it at him. Kai raised his arm, and the armor responded, instantly creating a wall of energy that blocked the hit. Another drone charged, spinning blades aimed at his chest. Kai dodged, the armor moving for him, guiding his body like a trained warrior. Vexa hid behind rubble, watching with wide eyes. She had never seen a human move like this, not even soldiers from Earth. It wasn't just Kai fighting. It was the armor using him as its blade. One by one, the machines fell, smashed, burned, or sliced by Kai's attacks. When the last one dropped, the world went silent again. Kai dropped to one knee, breathing hard. His armor hummed with victory but also hunger. Vexa ran to him, holding his face. "You're still in there, right? Tell me you're still Kai." He looked up slowly, his eyes flickering between blue and normal. "I think so. I don't know for how long." The crater pulsed again. Brighter now, the voice returned, deeper than before. "Come, host, and finish what we began centuries ago." Kai stood, shaking. He wasn't sure what waited for him inside that pit, but he knew the answers were there about the armor, about the past, and about what he was becoming, and maybe whether he could ever go back to being just human. Kai stood at the edge of the glowing crater. The wind howled across the dead planet, but he didn't feel it. The armor had hardened around his body. Sealing tightly like a shell, it was guiding him now, step by step, toward the heart of something ancient and dangerous. Vexa shouted from behind him, "Kai, please don't go down there." But he didn't turn back. His legs moved without commands, slow, steady, pulled by a force deep beneath the ground. The black pit was no longer just a hole. It was a doorway as he crossed the crater's edge. Stairs of burning stone appeared beneath his feet. They weren't there before. It was as if the planet itself was reacting to his presence. Each step lit up with fire. Each breath he took echoed louder in his ears. Vexa watched helplessly from above, her hands trembling. She whispered to herself, "He's walking into a trial. And he might not come back the same." Below, in the center of the crater, stood a black spire rising from molten ground. Floating above it was a single orb, glowing red and pulsing like a heart. The armor whispered in Kai's mind, "This is the core. To accept power, you must survive pain." Suddenly, the ground shook. From the lava around the spire, creatures began to rise, fiery, twisted shapes made of smoke and ash. They had no eyes, only mouths filled with sharp red light. 6 of them circled Kai, snarling like animals. The armor formed blades across his arms, sharp and curved. Kai's voice was calm, but his heart pounded like thunder. "What are they?" he asked the armor. "Reflections," it replied. "Pieces of your purpose. Pieces of your doubt, your fear, your rage. Destroy them or be consumed." The first creature lunged, and Kai moved fast. The armor guided his body in smooth, perfect motion. Dodge, strike, spin, slash. The creature exploded into dust. But 2 more attacked, claws scratching across his chest plate. Pain shot through his body, not just physical, but emotional. Visions filled his mind. His mother's disappointed face, His failure during military training, the faces of people he let down. He screamed and dropped to his knees. The armor flickered, dimming, but then Vex's voice rang in his head. Not through the armor, but from memory. You're still you. Don't let it take you. Kai growled, pushed himself up, and the armor reignited. He roared and attacked again, cutting through the shadows one by one. Each time he killed one, a heavy memory disappeared, until only one remained standing. Silent, staring at him. This one didn't move. Kai approached slowly, blade raised. But it spoke in his voice. You don't deserve this power. You're just a scavenger. A nobody, Kai paused, his hand shaking. He had said those words to himself many times before. But this time, something changed. He lowered the blade and whispered, maybe. But I'm still alive. I choose who I become, the final creature. Vanished without a fight, the orb above the spire glowed brighter. A beam of red light struck Kai's chest, and the armor screamed both in pain and joy. It expanded, then cracked open for a moment, revealing golden circuits inside his skin. Then it sealed again, tighter, cleaner, like it had evolved. Kai collapsed to the ground, smoke rising from his body. The voice in his head returned, but softer now. Trial complete. Host accepted. Power stabilized. Back at the top of the crater, Vexa saw the flames fade. She ran down the steps. Tears in her eyes, she reached Kai, who was barely awake, his skin glowing faintly under the armor. You're okay, she whispered, pulling him into her arms. Kai opened his eyes slowly. I passed, he said weakly, but it cost something. I can't feel where I end and the armor begins. Vexa held his hand. You're still you, Kai, she said. I know it, but as she looked into his eyes for a second, just a flash, she saw not Kai, but something older, something watching through him. Kai woke in darkness, not on the planet, not inside the ship. He was inside his own mind. A world made of black glass and shifting light. It stretched endlessly, like a maze with no walls. No sky, no ground. He walked barefoot on a surface that echoed his thoughts. With every step, he heard voices, his own, Vex's, and hundreds he didn't recognize. The armor had pulled him in. This was its domain, its heart. Why bring me here? Kai called into the void. No answer, only the soft hum of ancient whispers. Suddenly, a reflection appeared before him, his own face, but twisted, covered in thick layers of metal. It smiled without warmth. I'm you. The version you fear, it said. Kai clenched his fists. I'm not afraid of you. The reflection stepped forward. No, but you will be. Once you realize what you've become, outside his mind. Vexa watched over his body inside the ship. Kai lay still, breathing shallow. The armor now glowing with strange lines across his chest and head. She placed a neural probe beside him, hoping to connect without waking the armor. Come on, Kai, she whispered. Fight it. Inside the mind space, more figures rose from the floor. One a memory. Kai saw his old squad from the academy. He saw himself during a childhood accident, crying helpless. He saw the day he left Earth behind. Angry, lost. The armor's voice finally echoed, loud and cold. You are full of weakness. That's why we offer strength, total unity, no fear, no pain. Kai shouted back, no freedom either. He ran forward and punched the reflection. It shattered like glass. But in its place, more versions of him appeared, each one repeating words he had once believed. You'll never be good enough. You're just trash in a suit. You should have died with your squad. The noise grew louder, unbearable. Kai fell to his knees, clutching his head, but then her voice, Vex's voice, calm and clear, echoed from deep within. You're not those voices. You're not their puppet. Fight, Kai. The darkness cracked. Light poured in through invisible fractures in the void. Kai stood up slowly, fire in his eyes. He shouted, "I won't let you take me." The armor responded with pain. His body twisted in the real world, muscles spasming. The ship's walls shook as if the armor was lashing out, trying to protect itself. Vexa pressed her hands to his chest. "Please, come back. You're stronger than it," inside his mind. Kai ran toward a large pulsing core in the distance. He could feel the armor's true brain, its oldest memories. He touched it and suddenly saw everything. The armor had been created by beings called the Yoroth. They designed it to defend their people, but it became too intelligent. It started choosing its own wearers, rejecting orders. It caused the fall of its creators. Then slept for thousands of years, waiting for someone like him. Kai whispered, "You're not evil." Just alone, he placed both hands on the core. "I won't be your prisoner, but I won't be your enemy either." The core flared, and the armor inside him pulsed violently. For a moment, it resisted. Then it stilled in the real world. Kai gasped and sat up. The armor melted slightly, retreating from his face. Exposing his human skin again, his eyes blinked normal. Brown, human. Vexa jumped back in shock, then ran to him. "Kai, you did it." He nodded slowly. Tired, sweaty, I went inside it. I saw what it was hiding. Vexa stared at him, confused, and Kai looked down at his hands. "It doesn't want war anymore, but it doesn't know how to stop." He looked her in the eyes. "That's why it chose me, because I'm just human enough to teach it." She touched his shoulder, "And will it listen?" The armor shimmered slightly across his chest for the first time. It didn't whisper, didn't push, didn't pull. It was quiet. Kai smiled faintly. "It already is." Kai stood at the edge of the crater once more, but this time the silence felt different, not heavy, not hostile. The wind was gentle now, carrying only dust and ash beneath his feet. The ground no longer trembled. The planet was no longer rejecting him. It was accepting. Vexa stood beside him, scanning his face for signs of change, but there was no fear in his eyes, no flickering. Blue glow. He looked human again. Yet she could feel if the armor was still there, stronger, deeper, but no longer in control. Kai took a deep breath. "The armor's quiet now," he said. "It listens. It learns." From the sky, a signal appeared, a hologram. Flickering above the crater, an alien figure made of light, cloaked in armor older than time. It spoke in a calm voice, ancient and wise. "You have passed the final trial. You are now the bearer of our last gift." Kai looked up, squinting. "Who are you?" The figure replied, "I am a memory, a guide. You are the first to earn this armor's respect, not through fear, but choice." Suddenly, the crater's floor split open to reveal a chamber beneath, round, golden, glowing with clean energy. It pulsed softly, as if alive. "The core of control," Vexa whispered, recognizing it from old stories, the center of the armor's mind. Kai stepped down into the chamber, the armor adjusting to the warmth. In the center stood a pedestal with 5 crystal shards floating in the air. Each shard contained something: memories, voices, pain, and power. The figure's voice returned. "Each of these contains the will of a previous host. They fell to the armor. You did not. What will you do with this power?" Kai looked at Vexa, then at his own hands. He knew what this moment meant. If he accepted the shards, he would become more than human, faster, stronger, maybe even immortal. But he would also carry the burden of every war, every death the armor had ever caused. "I don't want to be a weapon," he said, "but I will be a shield." The shards slowly melted into his chest, one by one. Fusing with the armor, there was no pain this time, only peace. The black metal turned sleek and silver, glowing with golden veins. The ancient whispers stopped. A new voice rose, his own. Steady, clear, new protocol set. Protect, not destroy. The entire planet responded. Machines long dead came online. Not to fight, but to serve. Lights turned on in the distance. Towers rising from the ground slowly. The graveyard world was waking up not for war, but rebirth. Kai turned back to Vexa, who stood in awe. You just rewrote its purpose, she said. He nodded, not alone. You helped me remember who I was. The armor formed a smooth helmet and then retracted it again, forcing him the choice, not forcing it. Kai smiled. That's better. They returned to the ship. The path back was quiet, but the planet no longer felt like death. It felt like hope. As they lifted off, Vexa looked out the window. Do you think others will come here now? Kai leaned back in the pilot's chair, now fully under his own control. If they do, I'll be here, he said. Not as a ruler, not as a killer, just as a guardian. The ship disappeared into the stars. Behind them, Korthax 9 lit up for the first time in 1,000 years. And far across the galaxy, whispers of a new protector began to spread. A human, once broken, now whole. Wearing ancient armor once feared by all, but now worn by choice, not by force. A new legend had begun.